Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. My name is Matthew or Matty Triple C on Instagram. You can find all my work at Defiant Legends on Instagram. I'm editor-in-chief for Defiant Legends, and we're a culture and lifestyle magazine based out of Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Today I am back for my 20 albums of 2022. So I always do a countdown at the end of the year on Defiant Legends. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 20. For example, in the year 2020, it was 20 albums just because of how good of a year it was for music. Then in 2021, it was 10 albums of 2021 because it was a good year, but not as good as 2020. And now it's 2022, the end of 2022, and I am back for another 20 albums of 2022 just because of how good of a year 2022 was for music. So I'm just going to go through a quick review of my 20 albums of 2022. Hope everybody is having a great end of 2022, and we'll see y'all in 2023. Let's go!
Listen on the beat.
Alright, so we'll start off with number 20, and that will go to rapper 38 Special with his album 7 Shots. Rochester, New York rapper and producer 38 Special caps off his shot series with 2022's 7 Shots. These powerful 8 tracks showcase why Special is a talented writer and lyricist. We get some of his best songs this year, including the emotional Last Gasp with label mates Ransom and Tears. This was my favorite 38 Special project this year, as he ends his shot series with a bang, pun intended. Number 19 goes to The Weeknd with his album Dawn FM. Canadian singer The Weeknd released his 5th studio album in January 2022 titled Dawn FM. Dawn FM features Jim Carrey as a radio DJ host narrating the listener through a purgatory-like state of 80s inspired psychedelic pop. Dawn FM builds on the 80s inspired sound The Weeknd introduced in his previous album After Hours in 2020, but Dawn FM embodies the sound from start to finish and is more experimental and psychedelic. Number 18 goes to Currency and The Alchemist with Continuance. Rapper Currency and super producer The Alchemist dropped their album Continuance in early 2022. Continuance is a jazzy, psychedelic hip-hop record that sees the two artists' talents in full force. The album has excellent features from Boldy James, Larry June, Styles P, and Wiz Khalifa. My number 17 spot goes to Sci-Hi the Prince with his EGOT the EP. Rapper and songwriter Sci-Hi the Prince dropped a high-quality EP in 2022 titled EGOT the EP. This set of 4 songs is fun, technical, emotional, and thought-provoking all at the same time. The rapping is next level, the beats are great, and the mixing is impeccable. You get lost in EGOT the EP even though it's just 4 songs. So my number 16 spot goes to Cormega with The Realness 2. Legendary Queensbridge rapper Cormega released a sequel to his debut album The Realness over 2 decades later in 2022 with The Realness 2. The Realness 2 is a smooth and triumphant reflection on lessons learned from street life in the music industry. The veteran MC sounds as inspiring and thoughtful as ever as he conveys dense rhymes over remarkable instrumentals. My number 15 goes to Larry June with Spaceships on the Blade. One of the most consistent rappers over the past couple of years, the new school artist bringing that old school Bay Area sound. Larry June released his 10th studio album in 2022 titled Spaceships on the Blade. This West Coast hip hop album feels lavish and romantic as Larry June cruises in his whips to smooth tunes of hip-hop, R&B, and electronic music while telling stories of hustling and becoming successful. The writing is excellent and the music is fun but low-key at the same time. It is a feel-good hip-hop album great for cruising without compromising quality lyrics. So my number 14 goes to Nicholas Craven and Boldy James with Fair Exchange, No Robbery. Montreal producer Nicholas Craven and Detroit rapper Boldy James released their collaboration album Fair Exchange, No Robbery in 2022. Most of the album was recorded in a downtown Montreal hotel when Boldy visited Nicholas Craven in 2022. The album cover is a parody of a maple syrup label from Canada. The album's winter-like cover not only resonates with the cold feeling of the atmospheric production by Nicholas Craven, but with Boldy James's narratives, specifically his struggle with lean or cough syrup addiction. The album also has themes of hope and survivor's guilt, as snippets of Boldy's friends' phone calls from jail are in between the songs throughout the album to show you how not far removed Boldy is from his past. Those themes and Boldy's monotone yet heavy voice give Fair Exchange No Robbery the feeling of a triumphant yet cautious moment in a tumultuous story. My number 13 goes to Little Simz with No Thank You. It shouldn't be a norm to live your life as a tragedy, says Lil Simz, as she describes mental health as a metaphor in her song Broken from her 2022 album No Thank You. Lil Simz is no stranger to expressing contention through her music. On her fifth solo album, No Thank You, the UK rapper devotes her attention to discussing topics like mental health, music industry politics, and spiritual revelations, still enlisting her longtime collaborator, 2022 Brit Awards Producer of the Year Inflow for the production and engineering. Sim's fifth studio album feels more atmospheric and condensed than her previous. The multi-instrumentalist inflow clashes the sound of traditional hip-hop with funk and gospel, while orchestral strings give the tracks a dramatic send-off in the end. No Thank You may be one of Sim's less lengthy bodies of work, but is still one of her most cohesive and cinematic. My number 12 spot goes to Ransom with No Rest for the Wicked. In a year when New Jersey rapper Ransom dropped 3 good projects, none of them stood out to me more than No Rest for the Wicked. No Rest for the Wicked is some of Ransom's best tracks this year, with songs like the boxing-inspired opener The Hawk, the 38 Special featuring Rituals, and one of Ransom and Nicholas Craven's best songs ever with the soulful Circumstances. My number 11 spot goes to Freddie Gibbs with Sold Separately. In 2022, Gary, Indiana rapper Freddie Gibbs released his 5th studio album Sold Separately and his first on a major label. Sold Separately plays on themes of risk-taking and self-reflection as Freddie, held up in a Las Vegas casino, records his new album while gambling and partying. The production on Sold Separately is moody, with highs like the songs Couldn't Be Done and Too Much that feel like the top of a gambling streak, but with many more lows like the songs Rabbit Vision, Dark Hearted, and Grandma's Stove that are sad realizations on Freddie's journey. Freddie goes from using a single producer for the entirety of his past 2 albums, Bandana and Alfredo, to using a different producer for every track on Sold Separately, the opposite of his last 2 critically acclaimed albums. Yet the cohesiveness is not compromised. Sold Separately shows that Freddie can bet on himself when he's in the driver's seat with high stakes on the line, like using a major label, gambling reference intended. All right, so we're into the top 10. So my number 10 goes to Rome Streets with Kiss the Ring. The Buffalo-based record label Griselda Records has expanded from being a family-owned and operated group of rappers to a collective of some of the best rappers in underground rap. One of the new standout artists to the label is New York rapper Rome Streets, and Rome drops his Griselda Records debut in 2022 with Kiss the Ring. Executively produced by Westside Gunn, Kiss the Ring showcases some of the best Rome Streets tracks yet, with 25 songs of potent underground rap. Kiss the Ring features almost all of Rome's label mates, including Westside Gunn, Benny the Butcher, Conway the Machine, Stove God Cooks, Boldy James, and Armani Caesar, and almost all of their in-house producers, including Conductor Williams, Danny LaFleur, Derringer, and Camouflage Monk. This is one of the most consistently good underground rap records of 2022 and is centered around Rome's unapologetic style. So my number 9 goes to Joey Badass with 2000. Brooklyn rapper Joey Badass's 3rd studio album 2000 was released in 2022 as a follow-up to his long-awaited mixtape 1999. 2000 continues the nostalgic golden age hip-hop sound 1999 had, but with an updated and fresh take on the golden era sound without compromising quality. So my number 8 goes to Benny the Butcher with Tana Talk 4. If West Side Guns is the brains and Conway the Machine is the heart, then Benny the Butcher is the muscles of Griselda Records, Conway the Machine said. The youngest family member of the original 3 Griselda Records members, Benny the Butcher, has probably had the most mainstream success with his album Burden of Proof, produced by Grammy Award-winning producer Hit Boy in 2020. But in 2022, Benny the Butcher returns to his underground rap roots for the 4th version of his Tana Talk series, Tana Talk 4. The Tana Talk series started in 2004, but the 3rd installment, Tana Talk 3 in 2018, is arguably Benny's breakout album to many people. On the 4th installment in 2022, Benny refines the gritty Griselda sound that made Tana Talk 3 so memorable by bringing back producers Derringer and The Alchemist to produce the whole album, but sticking to 12 songs instead of 14. Tana Talk 4 is probably just as good as the 3rd Tana Talk, and if it is the final installment of the Tana Talk series and Benny moves back towards a more accessible sound like he did on Burden of Proof, this one will leave fans very happy. Alright, so my number 7 pick is Jay Worthy, Larry June, and London Drugs with 2 Peas in a Pod. If anyone asked me whether the West Coast G-Funk sound Dr. Dre, Death Row Records, or Bay Area legends Too Short and E40 pioneered in the 90s was still active today, I would point them in the direction of rappers Jay Worthy, Larry June, and producer London Drugs. On 2 Peas in a Pod, Los Angeles rapper Jay Worthy and Bay Area rapper Larry June team up with Vancouver producer London Drugs for one of the finest West Coast hip-hop albums in a long time. Jay Worthy and Larry June have great chemistry over these 11 G-Funk inspired beats, and London Drugs brings back to life the sound of the late 80s and early 90s that will have you reminiscing on a golden era. So my number 6 pick goes to Vince Staples with Ramona Park, Broke My Heart. California rapper Vince Staples sharpens his storytelling and his music listenability with the flavorful West Coast hip-hop album Ramona Park, Broke My Heart. Ramona Park, Broke My Heart, named after the area of Long Beach he is from, showcases Vince's conscious writing as he reflects on growing up in South Central LA, while instrumentally paying homage to the G-Funk sound that captivates the region. Not many albums feel this smooth instrumentally, while hitting with this kind of songwriting and reflection. Vince Staples brings on Ramona Park, Broke My Heart. All right, top 5, baby. So my number 5 goes to Nas with King's Disease 3. They argue KD1, KD2, and Magic was harder when KD3 go harder than all of them, Nas proclaimed on the opening track of his King's Disease 3 album, Ghetto Reporter. 2 years and 4 albums into legendary Queens rapper Nas and Grammy Award-winning producer Hit Boy's collaboration effort, the duo released arguably their best album yet with King's Disease 3. On the 3rd installment of the King's Disease series, we get 17 tracks with no features and some of the best production from Hit Boy yet. Nas feels the most comfortable out of all of the Hit Boy collaboration albums, and Hit Boy takes the most risk with his production and sample choices. The album plays smoothly from start to finish as the veteran MC pays homage to his home of Queens, New York with Thun, unites the impoverished on Hood to Hood, and talks about the abstract concept of beef as a metaphor on beef. King's Disease 3 is arguably a top 5 Nas album 3 decades into his career. My number 4 goes to Conway the Machine with God Don't Make Mistakes. Griselda Records co-founder Conway the Machine releases his long-awaited Shady Records debut album, God Don't Make Mistakes. God Don't Make Mistakes, released in 2022, is 5 years after Conway signed with Shady Records in 2017. In that time period, Conway released an average of around 3 projects a year under the Griselda Records banner, whether it be EPs or mixtapes. But the Buffalo rapper was yet to release his Shady Records debut. God Don't Make Mistakes, Conway the Machine releases some of his most personal, gritty, and triumphant music to date. For an artist with this kind of work ethic to hold onto an album for this long shows Conway's patience, strategy, and perfectionism. All right, my number 3 goes to Danger Mouse and Black Thought with Cheat Codes. Legendary MC from the Roots, Black Thought, and super producer Danger Mouse team up for a collaboration album in 2022 titled Cheat Codes. Cheat Codes started in the late 2000s after the Mouse and the Mask collaboration album from Danger Mouse and MF Doom. And we still get remnants of this era with the sound of the beats and the guests, like the feature from MF Doom on Belize. Black Thought is known as one of the greatest rappers of all time for his consistency with impeccable lyricism. Danger Mouse is a super producer who created the Grey album, which is a mix of the Beatles' White album and Jay-Z's Black album. The group Gnarls Barkley with CeeLo Green, and produced for groups like the Gorillaz and White Stripes. On Cheat Codes, the two veteran musicians come together for a long time collaboration album. You can tell this body of work was finely crafted, with the outcome being one of Black Thought's most prominent solo albums outside of the Roots, and one of Danger Mouse's most consistent hip-hop records. So my number 2 goes to Kendrick Lamar with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Kendrick Lamar is viewed as more than an artist, but as a leader. Someone who's supposed to have the answers to the world's problems. Someone who's supposed to keep the morale of the world. Enter Mr. Morale. But Kendrick is just a man with his own problems, a man with his own demons and trauma. On Kendrick Lamar's long-awaited 5th album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, Kendrick metamorphosizes his grief into inner peace by addressing generational trauma through a series of therapy sessions disguised as songs. The album is split into 2 parts, the Mr. Morale part and the Big Steppers part. On the Big Steppers side, Kendrick addresses his trauma and the trauma of the world with Unity on songs like United in Grief, Worldwide Steppers, and Father Time. On the Mr. Morale side, Kendrick dives deeper into healing himself with songs like Savior, Auntie Diaries, and Mother I Sober. Conceptually, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is one of Kendrick Lamar's most profound albums to date, although it may be some people's least favorite sonically. All right, so my number 1 album of the year, the one I listened to the most. I love this record. I couldn't stop getting it off repeat. I played it thousands of times, and that is Rock Marciano and the Alchemist with the Elephant Man's Bones. 2 friends, colleagues, and kings of underground rap, Rock Marciano and the Alchemist released their first collaboration album in 2022 titled The Elephant Man's Bones, consisting of over a decade of work together. The Elephant Man's Bones is what happens when 2 great MCs in a genre that have a similar sound work on an album together for almost a decade. Rock's clever rhymes, ultra smooth flows, and quiet delivery draw the listener in until his triple entendres live in your head and his immaculate slant rhymes leave you begging for more. The Alchemist, a producer who has never made a bad beat, brings some of his best production of his career as he sets a cinematic backdrop for Rock to showcase his unassuming rhyme style. Both artists feed off each other as the chemistry oozes over the 14 tracks. Alchemist's mixing is revered as all the tracks flow flawlessly together, and Rock raps some of his most technical and vulnerable lyrics in his lengthy discography. If you're a hip-hop head, The Elephant Man's Bones is a proper display of mastery. So there you go. That's my 20 albums of 2022. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope we have a great year in 2023. Hey, I might do a 30 albums of 2023. That would be great. Okay, everyone. Peace.